Welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Biohacking and Beyond with Elia Bella. And today I have a very special guest. It's so amazing to have discovered her because I find that we almost have the same kind of work. She is based in Europe. We are in different time zones, and yet it seems like we have the same goals in mind. I have Laurie Janssens here. Did I say the name correctly?
That's correct. Yes. Well, it's
Okay.
very interesting. I wasn't aware that you were also fully focusing on families. So I'm very curious, or on children, and I'm very curious what this podcast is going to bring. Definitely.
Yes. So when we look at biohacking, it's all about the human potential. My designation is a human potential coach, and it's always how can we evolve the human being to become a better version. And I always found that the potential for getting better is so ripe, especially in the field of special needs cases with children. And special needs cases always involves family. And therefore, the solution, the cure's in the cause, as I always say, the solution is always to have some sort of balance around family. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I'm curious about you. What were you doing before you decided to change or reposition yourself as somebody who works with children and families?
I have been dealing with various symptoms, and most of them are related to anxiety. And I have been trying to figure out what that was about. And I have been going to therapy and stuff like that. And I really couldn't figure out what this deep anxiety was about. And I literally created general anxiety and also anxiety of public speaking. And so even like doing podcasts today, it's nerve wracking to me, but I still want to put myself out there and to show also that even with these feelings, even though I know what they are about, it's okay to show up. And so my road is through anxiety. And I also believe that we choose teams as souls to deal with, to learn from. And so on my way of figuring out what this was about, I came across a lot of things. And what really hit home to me was, first of all, the law of attraction. And later on, I stumbled upon German new medicine, actually due to the disease of my stepfather. He had a cancer diagnosis, and I really tried to help him with the knowledge that I already had about self-healing. And so when I stumbled upon German new medicine, and he had a lung cancer diagnosis, and actually he just right before he resolved the conflict of not being scared anymore of getting COVID, which was really interesting. He was literally afraid to die of COVID, and he was a little bit older at the time. He was 74, and my mom was, I think, 65 at that time. And he already felt that he had to leave my mom earlier because he was older. And now COVID hit and he was really scared of losing her. So he had this death fright conflict. And so the moment that he released this death fright conflict, actually, and I still remember until this day when that was, it was when he gave me a kiss on the cheek again. And I was like, are you not scared, to have physical touch? And he was like, no, I'm fine. I'm done with this. I want to live again. Like weeks after he was diagnosed with lung cancer. And so now in hindsight, that made a lot of sense. But in that moment, we didn't understand because he was very healthy and he was very also on a spiritual level, he was like a very aware man, I would say. And so then we went into this whole search and he had improvement and stuff like that. And only just 1 month before his passing, we discovered German new medicine. And unfortunately, at that point, when I explained it, it was too late for him. He lost his consciousness already, or at least a lot of it. And so it was too late. But to me, it completely hit home. And I was like, whoa, nothing in the entire world has resonated so much with me as this knowledge. It just makes sense. And I just felt it deep inside my body. And so when I tried to research it, I actually was very scared of okay, this resonates with me, but everybody who I talk to about German new medicine, they look at me as if I'm crazy. And this was 2020. So I think the last years, even GNM has been firing up. But at that time, it was pretty new. And so most people looked at me as if I was crazy. And I actually also started to believe that I was, but yet it still kept like coming back to me. And so I started working with people on different kind of levels. So I certified in an EFT trainer. So I tried to help people. And like slowly, I started to bring in German new medicine as well. And again, it made so much sense in people's cases. And so slowly I started to develop more and practice more and ask people if I could like use this knowledge, if they were open to it. And when the successes kept growing, I was like, okay, I need to stop worrying about what other people think of me. And I need to start bringing this out. And this is the moment when I started talking about GNM online the past years now for over 5 years. And actually now I really only now I actually really start to feel confident to be very open about it. It's funny. It took me a while. And so now, just 10 months ago, I became a mother. And of course, pregnancy comes with intense pregnancy symptoms. Well, sometimes it does. And these pregnancy symptoms that I had, the nausea, for instance, I was like, okay, if some women are nauseous and others not, then why is this, And let's
Right.
put GNM, the lens of GNM towards it as well. So I
Yes.
figured out that I was dealing with a territorial anger conflict. And that was because my neighbors smoked a lot. And the smell of the smoke easily came into our home when they had their windows open. And so I think like on a subconscious level, I was like, I don't want this. I have to I'm growing a baby. A baby will be growing up in this house and this smell is like intense and I don't want to have it here. And so it
Right.
really made me angry. And I just figured out later on that indeed that was the case. And so now I resolved that and I was like, holy moly, even like pregnancy symptoms is something that is not like just normal. It's something that we have to understand and we can even resolve. And I had a
Right.
really good pregnancy, I think, just because I knew the knowledge of GNM. And so
Yeah.
then I had my baby, and obviously my baby experienced a few symptoms, not intense, but burping a lot after feeding suddenly. And I just like every time I put the lens of GNM towards it and it made all sense. And then I also realized how vulnerable it is and how fearful it is when you don't have this knowledge and you don't understand what is
Yeah.
going on. And so I felt I really wanted to make my mission to help parents understand the knowledge of GNM and so that they have the tools at hand to know what they can do when their child is going through it.
Right. Yeah.
And basically that's a little bit of my story. I tried to keep it short. I couldn't, I think, but
Amazing. Yeah, you took us right through it. And while you were talking there was also recognizing that around that time, 2020, during the pandemic, when everybody needed it the most, you would kind of wonder why GNM, which stands for German New Medicine, is kind of the previous name that Dr. Hammer, the founder of the work, gave it. But in 2010, he changed it to Germanische Heilkunde, which is a German name, because he felt that it really kind of resonated with the kind of teaching that he wanted to present to the people, Germanic healing knowledge in English. But people still use GNM, and people right now also use GHK. Just to let you guys know that for our listeners, that when Laurie says GNM, I say GHK, it's exactly the same thing, just different
mm-hmm,
iterations of the name. But back in
mm-hmm,
2020, nobody really knew about it. I believe during that time, there was still a lot of gatekeeping because a lot of
mm-hmm.
people were overprotecting the work as they should have. But it was kind of, it would have been nice if it were, kind of as explosive as it is now. I found it in 2021. Hardly anyone was teaching the kind of course that I was looking for, except for Andy Locke, who is in the US, and she was the only one who had a
Yeah.
practitioner course. And she also back then, she kind of required that you would have some background in it
Mm-hmm.
before taking the course. So you couldn't come in it cold, like really cold, not knowing anything. But I begged her and I said, I saw Carolyn Marcolin's videos. I enrolled in all of her videos and I read the whole website, learninggnm.com. And I know it to the core of my body that this is the real truth. So
Yeah.
please take me in. And she did. And she did. And that's also what started it.
Amazing.
But I love what you said about the death right conflict, which is lung cancer, and the territorial fear, which is what took a lot of lives, that time. And you could also trace it back to like the level of robustness of a person's psyche. And we have been sadly conditioned to fear disease and to fear our bodies by not understanding it, that there's this invader that wants to kill us when we evolved over billions of years precisely to not be killed. So all of a sudden, something wants to kill us. So why did we never question that until, Dr. Hammer came up with and also found evidence to say that no, of course not. The body wants you to live. And cancer is one of those programs that adaptation programs that wants you to survive. And so now you transitioned to family GNM, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, right. And your baby is how old now?
My baby is 10 months old and she's doing amazing. But obviously, like I said, like as new moms, honestly, I even lost the knowledge of GNM a little bit when I became a mother. You feel that you are really conditioned and still deep down in my psyche, especially when it's about my baby, that we're still conditioned in a way that, ooh, there's something wrong. What should we do? Should we visit the doctor? And I really lost it, to be honest. And even my wife, I'm together with a woman, and my wife even said, like, Laurie, how come you suddenly lose all of this? And I was like, I don't know what this mom brain is doing to me, but it's making me feel so vulnerable. And that made me even realize how vulnerable it is if you don't have this knowledge to fall back to at all, because suddenly I picked it up again. And so when my girl experienced symptoms, I exactly know, this is going on. For instance, the nighttime burping. So of course, like they have like this average way of doing things with babies. So online they write how you should be doing things. I'm usually not a person who would follow this, but also again, I started following what they would say that babies should do. And so they said like they have to drink an X amount of milk. And our baby girl is always like drinking and now eating less than average. Oh, and so in the moment when I still like was a little bit disconnected from my intuition, we decided to feed her more. And we literally like pushed in the bottle and tried to give her more. And even though we saw that she was like refusing it, and now thinking back at it, I'm like, why the heck did I do that? But this is what our mom brain sometimes does. And so
Right.
very short after, she had this intense nighttime burping, and it even kept her awake. And so then we figured out, that there was a conflict related to this. It was really like way too intense for her, hard to digest. And so these symptoms, when we resolved it, and actually we resolved it by not doing it anymore, but also I have my own tools to connect to her. So I use muscle testing to connect to her subconscious to see what's going on. And then we released some trapped emotions inside her, and then we completely resolved it.
Amazing, amazing. I understand what you say about you kind of lose GNM or GHK when you're with your loved ones. You as a mom and me, I have a maturity sub, so I have two cats, and they really feel like my baby. And
Yeah,
sometimes, when I see that their nails are really long, and I just feel like I need to cut them because it's kind of growing into their paws and it's hurting them. Even if they don't look hurt, in my mind they're hurt. And then I
yeah,
know how they hate it so much, but I force it. It's like I'm just gonna get it and force it. And meanwhile, I could feel the heart beating and everything. I'm like, why am I doing
exactly.
this? This is kind of like me, a doctor, forcing vaccination to a child who is deathly afraid of needles. So why am I doing it to my own cat when I already understand this? Stop it, stop it.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And that is also, I think, a thing that I want to emphasize is that even if you have this knowledge and understand this knowledge, I think it's good to know for many women that even with this knowledge, you lose it sometimes. And I think that's part of motherhood. And also I get a lot of questions from people or from women who live and breathe GNM as well, but then they have babies or children. And then they're like, Laurie, should I take medications or should I go to the hospital? And I'm always like, follow your gut, follow your intuition, and sometimes, yes, they need medication or they need a checkup, and if that feels good to you, at least the baby feels that you feel safe, and this is what due to mirror neurons, they just feel everything that we feel and their body often shows. And so just do whatever feels right for you, but also know that you have this information so that you can make decisions not only based on what people in the normal health paradigm are teaching you, but also think for yourself and then make a decision that feels good, right? I think there is
Right.
no right or wrong. And
Yeah.
to be very honest with you, Ellie, is also this is what I learned because of of labor. I actually, before being pregnant, I had resistance towards the medical system, a lot of resistance. And even though I tried to tell people, do whatever feels good, I was like, don't go that direction. And actually, I learned firsthand. I had a very intense labor. I wanted to have a home birth, and I did have a partial home birth, but after 5 hours of pushing contractions, I was completely exhausted and I needed to go to the hospital. And actually, this was the place for me where I had to be. And they helped me so perfect. And in that moment, I realized that whatever choice you make is the right choice as long as it feels good for you. And it resolved my anger and resistance towards the system. And it now helps me to become a better teacher, actually, because, it truly is fine, whatever you choose, as long as you feel
Yeah.
good with it.
Yeah, and also it's like, the nervous system is either fear or fear-based safety. So wherever you feel safe is where you need to go, because
Yeah.
that's where your body will kind of not have to, trigger adaptations. And so same like you, I had a mom who's fully GHK, like full GHK. She's also homeopathic. She knows muscle testing. She knows all of these things. She's super anti, also, she got pregnant. So she's super anti hospital as well. She doesn't want those traumatic births in a hospital, things like that. But then she started getting bigger. And as she started getting bigger, and she also has this psyche because she's a little bit older. And in fact, the older you are, the more conflicts you would have, over
That's what they
pregnancy.
say. Yeah.
Right? When you're
Yeah.
younger, it's not as much. You don't think about it, overthink as much. But this mother was a little bit older. She's about 39, and she was getting bigger, and she's like, I might feel safe in the hospital, but I don't want to. She was like, this conflict in her, like, I want a home birth and everything. It's better for the baby. I
Mm,
said, it has to be better for you, not for the
exactly.
baby. What do
Yeah.
you feel? What are you safe with? And
Yeah.
another thing was, it was a breech birth. So even if you hear around that, breech birth, actually, you could still deliver naturally even with the breech birth, but to do it in a very special way, then you could
Mm,
still have it. Even if I was telling her you could still have it, but I could feel in her whole nervous system, her whole equanimity was gone. And she was like, in a conflict, I really want to feel safe, but I don't want to. I don't want to be in a
mm,
hospital. I'm like, no,
yeah.
go to hospital, do it there. And she did. It was perfect. Just like what you
Well,
said. It
well,
was
I think
perfect.
this
Yeah.
is another topic to talk more about, and I learned it
Yeah.
the hard way. And I also there was a fear that in the hospital I couldn't make my own decisions. And I think also the
Yeah.
home birth community, and even though I love what they share, I think there's many accounts also spreading fear that you shouldn't come in that area, that it's dangerous, that it's harmful, that it's
Yeah.
unnatural. And so I think honestly that I bought too much into that side of the coin now, of that fear, instead of
Right.
like trusting my body and trusting myself and my intuition. And of course, we all learn through experience. And actually, this experience really taught me to connect back to my intuition in that sense. And honestly, I'm not sure yet if I want to carry another baby. And if I give labor, I'm not sure if I want to do it at home, to be honest, because I am now fearful that I would have a similar experience. And so if I feel more safe in the hospital, then I'm going to
Yeah.
do it without any guilt, without any shame, without any. And I think
Yeah.
it's an important topic to talk about because it's indeed about where do you feel safest?
Yes, yes. And I think for that, we would, I think a lot of mothers are afraid to find doctors who are just injection happy, and they just, do everything happy. Like, they take them away, they don't do kangaroo care right after the birth, they cut the umbilical cord too fast or something like that. But it's to arrange for someone to, be able to do everything that you would like to have done in the way that you
Right.
can do it, so that you're not in the middle of labor negotiating, because
Yeah,
you do not have the energy to do that. So prepare well beforehand to have the kind of
exactly.
birth where you are happy for yourself and your baby, and you're taken care of, just to remove all of the conflicts. Like last
Yeah.
year, I survived an asthma attack where it was ER worthy. I could have died. I know I could have died, but because of my psyche fitness, because, I know GHK, I've been biohacking, but, I had a territorial fear, really grave one over my business, and it resolved and I could have died. But, I was in the middle of it, of my epicrisis. Well, right before the epicrisis, where it's really the worst of the attack, where I could not breathe a single thing. And I was also going through another healing phase, endoderm healing phase, which is spitting blood and everything.
Mm.
Plus, all of the urinating, right? Because when you're healing, you're urinating. So I'd have to walk. I mean, it was really, really terrible. I was thinking, should I go to the ER? But if I had gone to the ER, they would be sticking all of this stuff in me. They would, put me through so many tests, and then they would find so many things with me and then put me in whatever. So I was
Mm.
already, playing in my head. So I was trying to weigh it. Do you want to go to the ER, or do you want to just stay here? Because in the middle of that, like what you were experiencing in the middle of labor, it's like, get me out of here. Just save me. Just get me out of this pain. I was just thinking, I'm gonna die today. But with
Yeah.
all the psyche training that I've had, EFT, so I do EFT, psyche, I do a lot of neurofeedback, my biohacking machines, has heart math and everything has helped me come back to center with the prefrontal cortex saying, of course not. You're not gonna die today, but it happened 50 times. I'm gonna die. No, you're not. I'm gonna die. No, you're not. My gosh, thank goodness for GHK, because after the epicrisis between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., or between 3 and 5 a.m., something like that. This is long time. If you survive that, it's done. The constellation's healed. You're back to normal, back to normatonia in a couple of hours, and you're okay, which is exactly what happened. 7 a.m.,
Wow.
everything disappeared. All the symptoms. I was able to breathe. I slept though for 8 hours because I hadn't slept for
Mm.
the whole night. And then when I woke up, I went on a Zoom like nothing happened. I mean, my
Isn't it
gosh.
beautiful?
It's
Yeah.
so beautiful. This work
Yes.
needs to be known by everybody.
I,
But
I, I'm
yeah,
100%. Yeah, I agree. And also what I believe this knowledge is to me, at least, it brought me closer to God and to
yes.
whatever that means to anybody. To me, it really gave me trust in life, I have to say. And so also during my labor, after these 5 hours of pushing, I was completely exhausted and I felt like as if I was in another dimension. Maybe this is normal during labor, but I really felt that like I was in another dimension. I was very present, but I had this faith in God and my body. I just knew I had to go to the hospital. That I had to go there and that was the place. And actually I knew that already 1 hour in of labor. And I told the midwife, but they saw her head already and they were like, no, she's almost coming. So she has been like stuck. Like they saw her head all the time. And so we all lost time. I don't know how, but like after 3 more hours, my wife said, we need to go. And suddenly we could go to the hospital. So actually, I also feel a little bit, well, not anymore, but I felt a little bit sad that we didn't go after that 1 hour because it was so intense these hours after. And suddenly we could go. But when I discussed it with a friend of mine who was working in a medical world, she said, Laurie, probably if you would have come in after that 1 hour, it was a C-section anyway because of the situation you were in. So probably you staying at home, not being allowed to go to the hospital has saved you that C-section and helped you to give birth anyway. And so what I try to do is also like trust in God's plan. And this is the way how it had to be. And honestly, that connection to God due to GNM, it has become closer and closer, which is amazing.
And that is so cool that you say that, because there are a lot of, gatekeepers who are saying that it has nothing to do with God or anything. But, we beg to differ, because Dr. Hammer, actually, his first book was called something about the soul, right? The conflict of the soul. And
Hmm.
he sometimes in the beginning interchanged, psyche and soul, where I'm sure he also referred to like earlier, psychologists, psychiatrists and everything, Carl Jung and whatever, they would call it the psyche, which is also kind of like the soul. And, the soul is just having an adventure through this physical vessel and imprinting. And he would say that, the soul is imprinted in our brain in the form of the Hammerscher herd, the circles that you find, the ring-like structures that you find in the brain when you see a CT scan that is mapped to an organ. That's an imprint of your soul. It's a recording of your whole life. which is
Yes.
amazing. And, if
Yeah.
we look at spirituality and everything, it's all about becoming better, working on the inner self to become better. And you would say the thing about GHK, about this work that's very spiritual, is because it kind of inspires you to try to be better, to
Well,
continue evolution.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
rise
I
higher.
think, I think that, yes, I think this whole knowledge, it's literally what I see is that, or what I feel, and you also just confirmed, but that our symptoms are literally a light shining on the, like, I have to say it differently, like the symptoms that somebody experiences shows where somebody is not aligned with their soul, with their highest version of themselves, whatever you like to call it. I mean, because I'm already whole, I am unique as I am, how cliche it sounds. But
Right.
my ego learned that that's not the case, and that I have to change my behavior to look better, to be better, and so now where I'm just disconnected from that soul. So basically all our symptoms are an invitation to indeed to unpack what is not in alignment with who you truly are. And I believe who we truly are is God's design, is complete, is perfect.
Yeah,
And so
true.
I love to use it through from that lens indeed. Yes. And I think
Yeah.
Dr. Hammer wrote this book, yeah, what you said as well. I don't know the
Like
translation now.
the golden book and the legacy, the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
about
think
this.
the soul. Yeah, something like that. Like of the soul.
So
Yeah.
yes,
And
Dr. Hammer wrote about that for a reason. And so he knew that
yeah,
as well already. Yeah.
he did. And plus he discovered the work from dreaming of, Dirk Hammer, whom his son is, the GHK was discovered because of his inadvertent or advertent, I'm not sure, shooting and passing away and in his arms. And Dirk actually appeared in his dreams and said and taught him the biological laws. And if there is,
I didn't know that story.
yeah, he did. It's actually in the
Really?
gold. Yeah, it's in the golden books. It is. Yeah. So thank you, my boy. Thank you so much for,
That's
teaching me the biology.
incredible.
It's incredible, right? And
Yeah.
Dr. Hammer would also talk about the telepathic window, which, if you've listened to the podcast, the telepathic tapes of children with the autism constellation, they have a frequency where they all speak to each other in the telepathic window, which Dr. Hammer acknowledged that there is something like that. There is something like that. But, a lot of people, but there's not a lot on it in his documents, but he has
Mm,
spoken about it and
yeah.
has one case that I know of where his wife or husband, I think, was in a coma. The wife was sitting right there, and there was communication that was passed from the person who had a coma to the person who was lucid. And
Mhm.
Dr. Howard said, "Oh yeah, it's a telepathic window, which is right there, and
Yeah.
it's not mapped to any organ." So there
Yeah.
is that. There's a doorway to spirituality. How can it not be included in the gestalt, right? In the human being,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And
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 I
Dr.
think
Hammer,
one,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and so I think why it's so interesting to now focus on children. I think that symptoms mirror a part in the soul that is not aligned, but I think children often mirror a part in the family system that is not
Yes.
aligned, because children literally copy paste most of the time what is being felt by parents, right? And thanks to mirror neurons, which is again a very,
Yes.
very intelligent program of nature that helps children understand without words, by just feeling what their parents feel, what is safe and what is unsafe. They literally mirror everything that we feel. And so oftentimes, at least what I experience when working with mothers and children, or sometimes fathers and children, is that 95% of the time, the conflicts children are dealing with and babies are dealing with is related to their relationship to the parents. And
Yes.
so what it then requires is for the parents to do the inner work for the baby to feel better or to resolve. And so now we have like the whole family system that we
Yeah.
can change for the better. And I think that
Yes.
is incredible. However, reality shows that it's often one parent that wants to cooperate and the other parent is not yet ready. But we
Yeah.
plant the seed, right? And so hopefully, like in time, the other parent is also ready to do the work. But I think it's just amazing to see, yeah, to see what children pick up on and what that can mean for the growth of the family. And so I would like to also say that the phrase that I use is that I help families understand the meaning and the opportunity in symptoms. There is a massive opportunity in symptoms, and I think it's time that we start to see symptoms as something positive, not underestimating that sometimes they can be very intense and it's not a great ending. So I do respect that for sure. But I think when we start to see symptoms as something positive, as something to understand and like be, hey, what can we as a family learn from the symptoms that our baby or a child is going through? Or that we ourselves are going through, and how can we change it for the better? I just absolutely love that. And that's what I do in my own family and together with my wife, because we're so open and we're like, oh, you have a snotty nose, what have you been through? What have you resolved? And we just see it as a play, as a fun play.
Who
And that makes,
stinks,
yes, who
right?
stings,
Who's
And
pissing
so,
you off?
yes, most likely it's me when she has a snotty nose.
Yes.
But, but it's just, honestly, it's an opportunity. It's not something to be feared. And I hope in my life throughout the next decades, and together with people like you and other GNM practitioners, we are able to teach people this, that we shouldn't fear them. We should understand them and we can play with them because they are
Yeah.
interesting. And so yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love, actually, everything that you said. The symptoms are kind of like the voice of the psyche, because once you understand which organ is speaking up, you understand what this person is going through, what kind of conflicts are kind of, giving them an opportunity, like you said, to step up to the plate. And hey, this is, a weak link in your bodily system, your wholeness system, whatever. You could work on it, or you could just keep it there. I'm just going to keep ringing the alarm until you listen to it, kind of thing. So,
Exactly.
yeah. And, Dr.
Yeah.
Hammer, I feel, gave us the operating manual to this really, really advanced biology that's been percolating for billions of years. And to kind of, it's like kind of you have this high tech, super high tech Tesla car, or even more high tech than that, where you only know two buttons and that's it.
Mhm.
That's on and off. And then change gear, fast, slow. But if you have all of these in between buttons that kind of how to control it, that I feel that we have that. And that's what GNM kind of gave us. And from there, we can reverse engineer things, and we can orchestrate situations that make it better for not just the child, but the whole family. Then we can
Mhm.
all co-resolve everything, because as
Yeah.
mammals, we were born in this group for survival. We were
Right.
designed to take care of the weakest link, the weakest member, the youngest member, and members of, strength in numbers, kind of strength in
Mhm.
numbers. Since we're a
Mhm.
lot, we can all pull together and take care of this little one, and take care
Exactly.
of. That's exactly. But it's so interesting, because actually my TEDx talk was about this. So it's a little bit about GHK, a little bit polyvagal theory, my work with neuroplasticity and children and everything. But the interesting thing, the title of my talk is "It's Not Behavior, It's Biology." The
Mm.
reason is that we uh, when we sever the early caregiving bonds of mother and child, whether it's a chimp or a lion or a horse or a human, something happens to the psyche, something happens to the brain of the child. It goes haywire, because we're coded to be taken care of up
Right.
to, humans is up to 25, right? For horses, elephants, it's like 6 years. Actually, almost the same as us, 12 years puberty, right? So things like that. So when there are cases where elephants whose mothers were culled, and they kept the infants, because what they want to do with the infants is they want to transfer them and grow them, or put them in zoos. So they grow in the zoo. So same thing with orcas, they strip them from their mothers, and while they're being towed, the whole family follows them, follows
Mhm.
the kidnapped infant and everything. When these elephants and orcas come into puberty, there's must that happens, aggression, hormones, puberty hormones of aggression, and sexual hormones also come up. They become murderers and rapists. They kill
Mhm.
humans, or the elephants kill other animals, rhinos, and sexually assault them and everything. So there's this thing about early caregiving, and
Mhm.
and the social bonds that keep us together. And so
Definitely.
right, so with GHK, one of my mentors said, "There's no such thing as childhood diseases. There are
Mhm.
only separation conflicts."
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
To take it more general, like even for us as humans, I think all symptoms are related to interpersonal
Yes.
relationships.
All of them.
All
All.
of them, and
All
because
of them.
just imagine about let's think about my own problem, the anxiety that I have.
Yeah.
If there would be zero people in this world, I wouldn't have it,
Right.
because I'm worried about something happening in the future that is related to being rejected or feeling stupid or like something, and that feeling incapable, powerless. But if there were no other human beings, then I wouldn't feel this, right? And
Exactly.
so I think that is so interesting also to realize. Yeah.
Yes, and also when we look at the first biological law of nature that the DHS is caused by a conflict shock, and there are four criteria: acute, unexpected, highly dramatic, unexpected, isolative, and caught off guard. Isolative is a criteria. If you feel all alone,
Feeling
which means
alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are not designed to be alone. We are designed to be in the company of others. They're again mammals, a pride of lions, a pack of wolves, a herd of elephants, a herd of horses. We are in groups for a reason as mammals. We are the dominant animal group
Yeah.
in the planet. It's because we're supposed to survive among others in social connection.
Yes.
And if we
Yes.
lose that, it's a huge, huge alarm in our nervous system that, hey, you're not supposed to be alone. Why are you alone? You know?
Right. Right. Correct. Yes. That makes so much sense. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
Thank you, Dr. Hammer. Oh my God, this work
Yes.
changing the world. And,
Yes.
you
It's
know, I work
incredible.
with special needs kids. Is that something that you've also done before, or is it because more
I
related because
have
of motherhood?
I haven't. Do you mean like also kids with autism and stuff like, or like what do you, yeah, okay.
Yes.
So I haven't, but I'm really like drawn to it because I think they are often have massive gifts that I and that's what I truly think. I really think that before we come to this earth plane, we know already how
Yes.
what our conflicts are going to be for us to live the life that we need to live, not want to live, that we need to live to grow, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So I am always curious. Lately, I also saw this. I think it was a blind child. Was it a man? Well, lately I saw this child also with, I think he was blind. And I was, and then I'm actually really curious to ask him questions like, hey, do you have like a certain sensitivity, or I'm curious to your gifts? But also a friend of mine, I won't go too much in detail because I want to not share this story too much, but she knows somebody who has a kid who has autism and this kid is not speaking. And so, and she asked me like, Laurie, what is your view on it? What is your take on it? Because this kid is really a burden for his parents and it's really tough on them. And I was like, have you ever asked them if they are open to learning the benefit of this child having this autism, and are they open to like maybe into alternative ways of thinking or visit a spiritual person to talk to? And they are not. And so then I feel very unfortunate for that kid, because when I see the kid on that picture, I see such an amazing, beautiful child. And I see in his eyes that he is fully awake. He knows what he's doing, but he just operates differently, right? And I just can feel sad, even though I know it's their path, when parents see it just as a disability or something, that's wrong, that shouldn't be there. Well, I think also the lens of GNM it can explain to you why your kid is dealing with what he or she is dealing with. And yeah, I actually I feel drawn to working with these type of children.
Yeah, it would be amazing because they
Yes.
really are the future of the world, and we really need to protect them as a collective.
Yes.
Human beings, we need to protect the children so much.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
What other biological programs have you navigated successfully with GNM?
Ulcerative colitis. Yeah. Which is it's so interesting. I naturally have coming a lot of people with these type of symptoms coming to me. Well, I never experienced it, but one of my first successes was with a guy who experienced this, and I figured also out how intense this is when you have these issues. This can be really bad, like very painful and very unexpected when when they need to go to the bathroom. So they feel ashamed about it and stuff like that. So very intense program. And I started to work with this guy, and it was in my well, it's a couple of years back. So it was in the beginning of really starting to work with GNM. And so, okay, we learned, okay, it's related to an indigestible morsel conflict. And so at that time, I didn't work with muscle testing yet. So at that time, I didn't work with muscle testing yet. I just worked with EFT. And so we tried to figure out the indigestible morsel. But very soon we learned that it was not the actual indigestible morsel, but it was the symptom shock, the fear of the symptoms that was keeping the conflict active. So the symptoms have become very indigestible for him. But also we figured tracks of like the toilet door. So this was interesting. We were sitting like we are like at Zoom. And so the toilet door was on his right side. And then we did this test after puzzling. I told him just have a watch just watch the toilet door and then look back at me and see if you feel something. The moment he watched the toilet door, he instantly had symptoms of flare up. Instantly.
Wow.
And that is because the toilet door is safety, is I can go to the toilet, right? And so, yes. And so all these types of things we started to put in place. And I soon figured that tracks, and I'm not sure how you think about this though, but I was planning to discuss it with a GNM practitioner or GHK practitioner as well, is that in the knowledge of GNM, we learned that tracks are oftentimes things that we associate in the moment of conflict. So let's say when you're drinking milk. But I figure that most of the time, the tracks is actually the thoughts that we have around the symptoms. Does that make any sense? Like that it's not really like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Actually, like in EFT, because I'm also EFT Universe certified like you. But we use all the sensory information, right? The sensory imprint. So what we saw, what we heard, what we tasted, what we smelled, but also what we were thinking. So it's like kind of part of that. Yes, absolutely. To consider the thoughts.
Yeah, I just feel like for some reason, 99% of the time it's the thoughts.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's something more physical, but oftentimes it's the thoughts. So
especially when I think when it's an extended track, definitely.
Right.
But if it's like the original tracks, it would be sensory, and then when it becomes extended, because it's like a hanging healing and it keeps happening and happening, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so maybe I should like share stories of successes I had with children. I think maybe that's more interesting for this conversation.
Sure.
So I've helped mothers with certain symptoms in their babies or toddlers. One case was a mother who had a daughter dealing with a rash. And so we tried to figure out what type of separation she had it for a couple of weeks. And we tried to figure out what type of separation she has been experiencing. And then we figured out through muscle testing and some puzzling that she had two types of separation conflict. Wanting to separate and not wanting to separate.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so the wanting to separate was related to her siblings. So she was the youngest of three and her siblings were older brothers who were pretty rough with her. And I am gifted with a strong intuition. And so what I saw is that she was being picked up. So I saw that in my mind is that her brothers were picking up very like rough. And I asked the mom, like, do they pick her up if she doesn't want it? And do they do it instead? And she said, yes, they are pretty rough with her. And I see that she doesn't like it. And I was like, okay, talk to the brothers, tell them she doesn't like it and that they ask her if they can pick her up. So mom did that. And we also figured out that there was a separation of wanting closeness, and it was to her father. Her father was away working all the time. And so when they were on a holiday, naturally, they had more time together. I also believe that she told the father to be more present with the daughter. And so they all did this and the rash resolved. So this was really beautiful. And so also now, which is beautiful, due to the lens of GNM, mom learned her to understand her toddler's boundaries better because the toddler just didn't like if her brothers just did with her whatever they wanted. So now they ask, and I think that's really good.
Wow. So it was all on her partner's side? All on the partner's side? Yes.
Yes. Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And so, it was on two sides actually.
Two sides. It can be general. It
was
like
general.
You said that she was being picked up. So it could be the local contact.
Yes.
So it's general.
I remember. Yeah. It was behind the legs. So they pick her up there. Yes. So they pick her up high. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And so it was behind the legs. And
Perfect.
So it was more like general. And to be very honest with you, I am not a person who is going deep into the theory. So I am more a GNM practitioner who is like, okay, we see we have a conflict. Let's dive into the subconscious to figure out what's going on. And so I'm not really into, of course, I look into left, right, and stuff like that. But I'm most of the time, I just send a few questions to the person to identify, okay, what could it be related to? And then I immediately start to connect to the subconscious and try to figure out what's going on,
Right.
basically. So I think there's multiple ways to work with this knowledge. I just use it as a base of understanding like the symptoms. And then just I use muscle testing and EFT to work with the subconscious to basically resolve it.
Yes.
And so another situation that we resolved was constipation in a 2-month-old baby. And so we figured also out that that was related to her father's feeling. Her father, mom and dad were not on the same level. I think they were unhappy with each other in that moment. I mean, it's a newborn phase. I get it. But father was also suppressing a lot of emotions. He was dealing with a lot of indigestible morsel situations. Baby must have picked it up and we started working on it. Dad also resolved some things in himself and we were able to resolve that as well. And that is just
Wow.
amazing.
Through
Yeah.
the dad.
Yes,
Through the
true to that.
dad.
So, well, actually, I have to be honest, the dad wasn't really open in working with me, but through the mother, I can work with the baby. And I picked up a lot of emotions in that. And then mom was like, okay, I get it because father is dealing with XYZ and I'm going to tell him about it. And then they did some changes at home and dad did some changes and then it resolved. And I think that's incredible.
That's amazing. I mean, yes, you're
Yeah.
right. There's so many ways to go about it. All roads lead to Rome, right? You get
Yes.
to take whatever,
Yes.
EFT. There's so many people now that use EFT and GNM. In fact, on Amazon, there's a book there
I know.
where that author who uses EFT
I,
and GNM. I
yeah, she's
forget
a
her
Dutch
name, but
Gabrielle
Gabrielle.
Rutte. I actually have been in training with her. Yes.
God, no wonder
Yes. But also I've
her.
been training with another lady and she's also like actually when you talked about GNM and GHK in the beginning, I'm not sure if I understood correctly that you said that Dr. Hammer changed it to GHK. Is that correct?
In 2010, yeah, he changed it.
Okay. Well, he changed it. Okay.
So in 1981, he called it the new
Mm-hmm.
medicine because he wanted to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate from the old medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
then later on, he added Germanic new medicine because of the Germania, the tribes,
Mm-hmm.
Germanic tribes. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
really German because German is not Germanic. So he
Mm-hmm.
he added
Mm-hmm.
Germanic new medicine. So German new medicine, all the words don't represent the actual work. And then
Mm-hmm.
2010, he decided I'm going to change it to Germanische Heilkunde because that is exactly what it's the healing knowledge of the Germanic tribes to be connected with nature and to be aligned with nature's laws because
I
the
didn't
Germanic
even know this.
tribes totally
Okay.
navigate with nature and Odin is the only god or deity that he wants to uphold or worship. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's so much about the Manus rune and everything, how Mein Studenten mention was created and everything. The whole book, if you have it, it's in French and German. And
Okay.
he talks about the history and everything all in that book. This actually is best book.
I'm gonna look it up definitely. But as you notice, I'm not too much of a theory person. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
follow, right? And so it's good to learn from you as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
It's good to know what you need to know, right? I mean, the history and
Right,
everything, sometimes it's not even needed. You don't even have to explain that to clients, right?
right,
So,
correct.
yeah, what you know is what you know and how you deliver it. As long as the clients are, comfortable with it, understand it the way you teach it, that's what matters, I think. Because right
I
now,
agree.
our job is to spread the work, to spread the
Yes,
knowledge and the wisdom as much as we can.
agree.
And a lot of people do not relate with the GHK terminology.
Yeah,
So we have to translate it in our own
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes,
Yeah. So that's amazing. I love what you're doing. We're so aligned. Oh my gosh, EFT, muscle testing. And,
yeah,
how do you use EFT then to resolve it? Do you find the biological solution first? And then if you can't use EFT, or do you go to EFT?
yeah. Good question. I use this mixture of what I feel is right in the moment.
Yes.
So even though I'm certified, I'm honestly I'm just doing what feels necessary in that moment. And I think that is most important. So I am working with a mother who has a child with migraines. And so She said he had migraine from the moment he had a tick bite. And she thought it was coming from the tick bite. She didn't have so much knowledge of GNM. And then I started to look into conflicts that could be related to headaches slash migraines. And I am gifted with this thing that I can feel into people pretty easily when I request permission, of course. And so I asked Mom, can I connect to your and your son's subconscious? And the first thing that I picked up was like, Mom, please leave me alone. And so I think the conflict related to that is either territorial anger or motor conflict or whatever. But I figured that in the moment, and she could confirm that he felt they were really holding him really tight, getting out that tick. And afterwards, Mom was really afraid that this tick would cause Lyme or any other health diseases. And then we just figured out that Mom was pretty controlling over him anyway. And so that this whole headache thing was now related to how Mom was acting, was treating her son. And actually that is so interesting and so vulnerable of that mother to acknowledge to me, like, yes, I am super controlling. Actually, in that moment, I was really scared when he had that tick bite, but also when he has other symptoms, I am so scared, controlling on top of him. And he's just getting sick and tired of this, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Amazing. The
Yes.
possibilities of migraine, I think, also is the periosteum, which is brutal separation. Yeah, brutal separation. And the trigeminal nerve, which is losing face, which is also related here in the fifth trigeminal nerve. It's on cranial nerve 5 here. That might also be. But yeah, but it seems like it's very intense because it hurts so much in the healing phase.
Yes, it does. And so now also the track that we figured is Mom's behavior in the healing phase. So when he has a migraine. So this is interesting. What I figured is that often chronic symptoms on a deeper level, they are there to keep us safe or to help us not stand in our light or to get the attention that we never received or that we don't receive when we are not sick. Okay. This goes a little bit deeper. What we discovered with her son as well is that he gets special treatment when he has migraines. She's much kinder and also more physical when he has migraines. So we also picked up that the migraines are actually helping him to receive the attention that he needs. And she was like, yes, I know this is big. And this is also at adults often the case. We don't do it consciously. Okay. So it's not, oh, I want to be the victim. No, it's a way again of survival. Of finding connection, right?
Absolutely.
And so I told Mom now, just treat him the same as he has migraines as when he has no migraines, right? Because he feels special, a special case when he has. And so I know there are also some situations with his father where he doesn't get the attention that he needs. So it could be a survival program of his to receive the love. Yes.
It could be. It's so interesting when we look at that. And of course, we don't want to psychologize what all of these gatekeepers are saying. Don't psychologize it. Look biologically, which is true, but we're also looking biologically because relationships are biological.
Right.
And the relationships are so there's such a gray area. It's so nuanced
Right.
that you can't just look at it as black and white. You have to look also between the lines and outside of it in order to really clinch it like what you do. I think it's to
you know what it is? I agree to look purely biologically, but when you can't resolve it that way, there must be other, I think again, I don't like to stick to rules, and maybe other people think that I might be a bad GNM practitioner because of it, but I just use GNM as part of my work to put the puzzle into place. And so sometimes we know the conflict and we work on resolving, but it just doesn't resolve. I think other practitioners also will confirm that. I think most of us will see that it's really hard to actually resolve chronic symptoms. I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I think only like a very short percentage has like instant success by understanding GNM and the conflict. Yeah. Because you know what? If this child a couple of years ago was bitten by a tick and had that situation with the parents coming up, and then these migraines came, but now Mom is very fearful also when these migraines, there's like new conflicts on conflicts on conflicts, right? So it becomes this whole like maze of things that we need to unpack. At least that is my approach. Yeah. That is my way of thinking.
I agree. Sometimes I have a lot of consults where, like for example, adenomyosis or whatever, there is like a relationship issue around having a baby or not wanting to have a baby. And then, the couple talks about it and they work on their relationship and things get better. So there's some
Mm.
things like that that are quite obvious, but obviously this is like a one layered cake. But you can have
Right.
cake that has like 52 layers and sometimes you kind of have to uncover them, little by little and just try to chip at
Yeah.
it as much as you can. And it really is so helpful to have so many tools like what you say, your EFT and your muscle testing. Is that body talk or
Yeah.
is it
Yes.
psyche body talk? Emotion code.
Yes. Emotion code is what I use. Also, I use it in my own way. So I use it just as a reference, but basically I just connect to also to confirm what I feel, also what I sense in people, what they are discussing. I use it as a confirmation. I love that. And to identify trapped emotions, well, which already have started in utero, for instance, that we can identify.
Exactly. And these are things that we cannot what you call this dilute because it's what painted the picture. It's part of the picture. So you can't
I
like,
I
remove.
honestly think the people who are screaming the loudest that you shouldn't use it this way or should use it that way, I think
Yeah.
just think about, if it's helping me book the results that we want to have with people, why not? Why are we so scared to draw outside the lines? And to be very honest, because of Dr. Hammer, of course, he discussed it, that he isn't God and there's always ways to look at it differently, right? And so, yes, I just want to say that because I'm sometimes a little bit annoyed by people like being like, this is not according to rules. And I'm like, yeah, but look at my results. They are good. So why not? Right? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And Dr. Hammer calls it the Heilkunde of freedom. He really wanted to give this to humanity. And
Mm,
however we interpret it, as long as we understand how he wanted it taught, we're pretty much free to do whatever we
right.
want with it and, to use it as a framework. And we thank him for it. But there are other, when we were talking about family systems, right? So it's like family constellations.
Right.
And there's a practitioner in Montreal, Gilbert Renaud, who uses GHK, GNM as the framework, but he also has some stuff about ancestral trauma passing
Me
down,
too.
like even the birth order, like the fingers, the toes, and what they pertain to. He has a
Yeah.
whole book. I don't know if you know. It's called Pyramid
No.
Healing. No, Pyramid
Oh,
Recall. Pyramid Recall. He has a book, and
yeah.
he uses GHK as a framework, and he will talk about
Oh,
order, the youngest, this one, and things
I
like
love
that. So
this. I'm also
yeah,
deep into generational patterns because, again,
right.
it's so easy. Like disease or symptoms, I have to say, are created by perception, right? And this
Yes.
perception can be passed on to us. And so, why not look into that as well, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
It's like, why does the youngest child in a divorce situation and is always, a delinquent or whatever, and she was raised really well at home and parents are really cool. So what happened to her? It's because, the her grandmother, the seventh child of the great grandmother, went through something and passed away and didn't heal that. So now it's nature, as nature's laws are, pass it down until it can be healed so you can
Yes.
evolve into better people, is
Yes,
passed down to
yes,
her.
yes. Yeah,
Things like
similar
that.
thing. I actually resolved hair loss with a lady, and she is a child of Jewish World War II survivors. Okay, and so yeah, this is interesting. And her father passed away, but they were refugees, if I'm not mistaken. They had to leave their place. And of course, we know what happened in World War II, and this is very intense. And now she is already prone to separation conflicts because this is what is literally instilled in her, okay, as a
Yes.
child of World War II survivors. And so now what is interesting with the war that's actually going on in Palestine, when she watches the news, she feels there is more like hair loss and stuff like that. And so we literally had to resolve back into the line of her father and heal the trauma that he passed on to her to be able to resolve this conflict and for her hair to grow back. And you can see it on my Instagram. You see that, like, in the first session we had, there was a lot of hair, and then after fourth session, almost nothing. And we did mostly by generational healing. So yes, this is big and this is important to include it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And if you'd use biological, which is in the 3D and the here and now, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have resolved because nothing would make sense in the here and now.
That's what I mean. That's what
Yeah.
I mean. And let's include everything that that could help this
Yes.
individual. That's really
Yes.
what I feel. Yeah.
Yes. Period. That's
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
what matters.
That's
Yeah.
what
I mean,
matters.
it's easy to get into that box of, let's be strict. I'm a purist and everything. And
Hmm.
it's easy to get in there, but my gosh, when you see results and when you're frustrated for like a child who's in pain and the mother who
Hmm.
is like in a fetal position on the floor and
Hmm.
you just want to stick to biological, are you kidding? I just
Yes,
want to
that's what I
relieve their
mean.
I just want to relieve their pain. I just want them to
Whatever we need to do, whatever we
it's
need. Well, at least that's how I work. So, and you as well, as I
same.
can hear. But whatever we need to do, we are going to do. Basically, I think that's most important.
I think
Yeah.
so too. I mean, GHK as a framework is amazing because it kind of
Yeah.
focuses targets on, okay, let's try this place first.
It's
And then let's
amazing.
see. Yeah. And then let's
Yes.
see. Then let's
Yes.
be creative. Then let's try other stuff. Okay. And then if it works, yay. If not, let's try something else. But I'm not going to just stay in this box,
Agree.
just
Yes.
because it matters to me to be right rather than to be helpful to my
Right.
client, you know?
That's yes, correct. And yeah, yes, we agree.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, Laurie, what kind of work, what kind of services do you offer clients? And do you
Mhm.
also take international clients?
Yes, I mostly work internationally, so I work on Zoom. Most of my clients are from the US actually, but also from other parts of the world. And so I offer, of course, one-on-one sessions. I offer also customized packages. And how I mean customized is I muscle test whatever you need right now in this moment. So let's say you come to me with an issue. We are going to talk together and I'm going to check in to see how many sessions do we need to come to a resolution, I don't say, but to come to a point that you know how to move forward. I always say it's not a guarantee that you will be symptom free because that is very depending also on what you do next to working together with me or what else there is on your path for you to learn. But then I know that they need, for instance, 5 sessions to move to the next level, I would say, in their journey. And so that's very customized or personalized, I have to say. And so a more easy entry is the free masterclass that I now created for families. So where I explain symptoms in babies and children and an easy 5-step framework to walk people through to help them understand how they can find their baby's conflicts and how to resolve it. And another option I offer is the symptom clarity video where you can fill out a few questions. And I'm going to just, without your presence, I'm going to check into your subconscious with your permission, of course. And I'm going to share with you 3 tracks that I've identified related to your symptoms. So basically, that's how you can work with me.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. So muscle testing and subconscious and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. I love that. And would you share with us your socials and where we can reach you?
Yes, it's just at Laurie Janssens on Instagram and also on TikTok. So it's Laurie and Janssens is, well, you write it down. I think in
I'll
this,
write it
yeah,
down
you can
in the
find
show
my name
notes.
in the description in the show notes. And my website is lauriejanssens.org. There you can find all my information.
Amazing, Laurie. Thank you. I've been so inspired listening to you today, and I love it that I think we really are on the same, same track, same kind of advocacy, which is
Yes.
amazing. So usually what I ask my podcast guests, the last question is like, if you had a magic wand and you could click into that wand and, the perfect world emerges, what will that perfect world look like for you?
I think everybody would come to understand the knowledge of German new medicine and feel the magic and the power of this knowledge. And I think the world would look so different when people have this knowledge. So yes, that would be my dream for now, that the whole world gets to know about this knowledge of German new medicine.
I definitely share in that dream. And yes, and we are making it happen. It's coming true right now. A lot
Definitely.
more people because there's, practitioners like you who are very passionate in sharing and helping people with this work. It's definitely becoming a reality.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me already a while ago, but thank you so much for inviting me, to giving me the opportunity to connect to you. And I'd love to see more from your work. And I'd love to see your TEDx. Can I watch it somewhere?
Yes, yes, they're actually producing the video, and then when the link is available, I'll be sharing it as well. They're just
Amazing.
editing it right now, so it will be, yeah,
Yes.
it will be out soon. Thank you so much, Laurie, for sharing your wisdom, and maybe we'll see you again another time. If you have an update or some great story to share in your work, we would love to hear about that.
Amazing. Definitely. I will share it with you. Definitely.
Okay, thanks, Laurie.
Thank
See
you
you
so
soon.
much. All
Okay,
right. Bye
bye.
bye.